Now, this is not the Lara Croft that I grew up with. No, no, no. This is the one made for a modern audience because I understand that human nature has shifted dramatically within the last 20 years. What I used to find attractive, the modern audience doesn't anymore. And this, of course, has been decreed by the HR hags working at corporations, by Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats who have funded the academia in order to come to this conclusion that, well, teenage boys are just not attracted to the same stuff anymore. So doesn't this new Lara Croft look masculine to you? Because I had people on Twitter like pouring gas constantly over me saying, no, like, what are you talking about? Like all of you right wingers, all of you are just like looking for reason to complain. It's like, obviously, she is a beautiful, gorgeous woman hailing from California, right? Then why is it like just a little bit of tinkering in Photoshop? Gorgeous! Gorgeous! From California! Yeah. Maybe this is why, like, they're having a population crisis over there and they need to constantly import immigrants. I mean, if women look like that, they find it's gorgeous, right? Like, if this is a gorgeous woman from California, imagine how the ones that aren't gorgeous look like. Oh, but V, you're using Photoshop. That's not fair. Okay, use Photoshop and make this character look more masculine. Can you do it? Oh, you can't. Why is it? Why can't you? So this is not like a new thing, right? Like we've been noticing this trend in the gaming industry for quite a while. Now, I would like to point out that there are people who support this. Right? So you have like the people who support this and they say, well, I have no issue with this. Like, this is how it should be. And for those people, I hope you find a wife that looks exactly like this. I mean, maybe your mother looks like that's fine. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge if this is what you're supporting, if this is your fantasy, right? Because we're playing games for fantasy, and you can be anything in fantasy. You can be like a god, right? Like God of War, like you're Kratos, and you're climbing mountains and doing stuff. And this is like your fantasy of a world. This is who you want to end up with. That's fine. I'm not going to judge. That's you. Like, it's fair. It's fair. But then there's the other group of people that absolutely despise that you're pointing it out. This is the group of people that I don't understand. The ones that are terrified of having the conversation. They're kind of like conversationalophobic, if you know what I mean. The type of individuals that if they can't give the comment sections disabilities, so if they can't disable the comments, they will immediately start saying, oh, well, you're just a right-winger, you're making stuff up, like you're completely batshit crazy, I don't know what you're talking about, like, what are you on? Like, these are perfectly gorgeous women, and these are the same people that freak out when they see anime. Like, these are the same people that have an aneurysm whenever an actual beautiful woman comes on screen. You get Stellar Blade, they were like, oh my god, but she looks like a child. She is but a child. How can you hyper, mega, omega, super duper sexualize her? Like, what is wrong with you people, right? So these are the individuals. And for a long time, it's like a weird thing. Like, why are they so invested into this? It's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, hey, if these are the women you like, then by all means, but why are you upset when I like Stellar Blade? Why are you upset when I like Newer Automata? And it seems that we may have an answer from inside the AAA industry. There have been an interview done with The Last of Us 2, Naughty Dog Company. And for those of you who know The Last of Us 2, I mean, they were bragging about the fact that they are going to have a transgender character in the game. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And when the game came out, I was always thinking that it's Abby, right? I always thought, looking at Abby, that is the transgender character. But no, it turns out that Abby was actually just a woman. The transgender character was someone else. So that was bizarre, like, why that particular aesthetic? Why that particular choice style for Abby when you could have gone with a lot of other things? Why did they nerf Ellie? Like the motion capture actress for Ellie looks gorgeous, but in game she looks like shit. And it's like, okay, why do they do this? And it seems that a whistleblower may have finally given us the answer. So in this article, they're having a candid conversation where they're pointing out that diversity hires for tax credits and to keep staff from unionizing, like this is something that Amazon discovered. Take into account that diversity doesn't mean like you're hiring different people of different races. No, like what it means is that you're telling your employees, hey, you know, like the person oppressing you is not the corporation. Like, don't look at your boss. Look at your colleagues, right? Because you have like ethical grievances. Like, didn't you know about that, right? Like when your colleague says something, isn't he actually trying to say some microaggression, right? So like corporations discovered that John and Juan like have no issue with each other and they're perfectly happy at working with each other if left alone. So it's the corporation's job in order to hire the HR lady to make sure that John and Juan are not left alone. Because when they're left alone, they unionize, right? So they discovered this, and this is what they're talking about. And apparently also bending the knee to the far left politics to appease the mob. But this is like the interesting interview, right? It's not really about the sexual objectification of women, says the whistleblower. Women like men come in all shapes and sizes. To say that having big busty women is unrealistic is untrue. Again, like their argument is like women come in all shapes and sizes, so you're only going to get the type of women that I showed you previously. Isn't that interesting, right? Because like if they come in all shapes and sizes, like eventually you would run into the 10 out of 10 waifu. Like eventually you would run into the busty lady. But for some fucking reason, that doesn't exist in Western game anymore, because all the women, all the fictional characters in Western video games have gotten titty cancer. Like, they can't make anything that's higher than C-Cup. Did you notice that? Right, so here is why. This is only true for trans people. A trans woman can't naturally grow large breasts, and not all trans people can afford implants. If you see a game where the women are a little less curvy, it's not because the game designers are worried about receiving a backlash for sexualizing women. It's because they are worried about offending the trans community. From a design standpoint, this is a really challenging problem. I've had many board meetings about how to tackle this. Trans people want realistic representation in our games, but they feel excluded if they are represented as too masculine or too feminine. That's why you will see a lot of designers, quote-unquote, nerfing the female form, so to speak, so that to have the difference between trans women and cis women is a little bit less noticeable. Now, I don't know if all the companies are doing this, right? Like, I don't know if all the companies are making female characters androgynous due to trans people. But what I do know is that I do speak with artists from AAA, and they are actually told, it's like, okay, you're not allowed to make these size breasts, you're not allowed to show cleavage, you're not allowed to, right? Like, they actually have assigned an HR person. Usually they have, like, different names in corporate. But that person is basically telling them, like, we matured as a company. You know, can you make the character shoulder more wider? Can you give her a stronger chin? Can it, right? Like, they're requesting these things, which are specifically trying to masculinize the female character. They don't do the same for the men. Like, that's interesting, right? Like, the male characters, they can be like Kratos with big busting pecs, and, like, that's fine, right? It's only with the female characters that the artists aren't allowed to create whatever they want. You're not able to have video games that look like they did in 2010 or before that. You get to see the new art style, which is literally the same. It's incredibly bland, boring, and many times if you just Photoshop the makeup out, and if you Photoshop the hairstyle out, the character does look like a male, which is why I'm willing to believe this whistleblower. Let me know what you guys think, though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.